everybody. It's a few minutes after the hour, so I'm going to get us started. I'd like to thank you. I'd like to begin by extending a very warm welcome to Legacy Club members and other loyal supporters, including our conservation partners, our nature guardians, and members of our Last Great Places Society. It's your generosity that helps support the critical conservation work that we're here to learn more about today. And it's great. I see people that we see that we have people joining us from across the United States. We have friends signing on from Brazil. It's a big group and it's wonderful. It looks like there's close to 400 of us. And it's wonderful that we can gather to learn more about the vast size, complexity, and importance of the Amazon. The Amazon region is one of the Nature Conservancy's 4 focal areas. And this is a region critical to the preservation of biodiversity and addressing climate change. And quite frankly, we know that the future of the world is intimately linked to the health of the forests, savannas, and wetlands in Brazil. My name is Warren Miskell, and I'm joining this call from Yarmouth, Maine. And although I know at this point many of you are webinar experts, I thought I'd share a few reminders. At the bottom of your screen is a toolbar, and on the far right is the CC icon that you can click on to take advantage of closed captioning. And then many of you have found the chat icon. And from this point on, my colleague Maria will share information and links in the chat window. And then finally, there's the all-important Q&A icon. And you can submit questions at any point during this presentation. You don't need to hold on to them. They'll get added to the queue. Our intention is to make this event as interactive as possible, and we will answer as many questions as we can. Likewise, this webinar is being recorded, and we will post that recording in a couple of weeks, and towards the end of this event, we'll share the link to where you will eventually find that recording. During the course of planning this event, I've had the great pleasure of meeting many members of our Brazil team, and I'm honored to introduce 2 of them today. José Otávio Passos is the Brazilian Amazon Director, and he's calling in from his home in Belém, in Pará, Brazil. He's been with the Nature Conservancy for about 3 years. Wandrea Bites is TNC's Agroforestry Carbon Project Manager. She's also calling in from Pará, where she was born and raised. And although Wandrea is relatively new to the Nature Conservancy, she has 25 years of experience working with local communities in Pará. So these 2 are a wealth of information and stories, and I'm delighted that they're able to join us today. So at this point, I'm going to hand it over to José Otávio, who's going to get this adventure started.
Thank you, Warren. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thanks, Warren. Thanks a lot for the introduction. And thanks everyone that has been working behind the scenes to make this event possible. I'm seeing that there is more than 400 people joining us, so we will need a virtual jumbo to take us all in this field trip. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Amazon, to the state of Pará. We are glad that you are all here with us. And you may be asking, seeing this video, where is the forest? And this is one of the most striking things about the Amazon, and one of the first things you will notice when you arrive in a city in the Amazon: the forests and the massive size of the rivers. Although I live in a large 1.5 million people city, I can see a large river from my apartment right there at the Guamá River. And in the other side of that river, half a mile from this margin, I can see riverine communities, some of the 9 million people that live in Pará. Is with those people, recognizing them as protagonists, that we have been working for more than 20 years here. Thanks to people like you all that have been supporting our work, nature, and the people that live in the Amazon. And now we will tell you a little bit of that story that you are all part of. As you can see in this map, before we start our journey, the Amazon is huge. It's almost the size of Australia, and it spreads over 9 countries in South America. It houses a huge biodiversity, the biggest on the planet, with 40,000 plant species like the kapok tree, for example, which is called samaúma around here. And you can see the samaúma in many places, like the national forests in the Tapajós River. A tree that can grow up to 240 feet and can be found all around. Another inhabitant of the Amazon is the purple martin, a bird that migrates between North and South America. I will get back to this little fellow at the end of our presentation. And the Amazon biome shares part of its name with the biggest river in the world, the Amazonas, with a water flow that is equivalent to 7.2 million Olympic swimming pools per day. That is 5 times more than the second place. This picture illustrates well how it is to fly over the Amazon at low altitude. Through the Amazon biome flow 11 of the top 30 rivers in water discharge in the world, 4 of which are in the state of Pará, where we are, the Amazonas, the Tapajós, Tocantins, and the Xingu. A large portion of the Amazon is in Brazil, and a fifth of it just in the state of Pará, where both Andrea and myself are speaking from. Which leads us to the following question. Have you ever heard about the state of Pará? Pará is a huge state. You can see like in this scheme that it can be compared to United Kingdom, Germany, and France together, or almost twice the size of Texas. If it was a country, it would be amongst the 25 largest in the world. When you are flying over Pará, it may take you more than 2 hours to leave the state on a commercial flight. And if you are flying a single propeller, probably 4 to 5 hours. The picture on the left illustrates well what you would see during that flight most of the time, as Pará is covered by tropical rainforest. To be precise, 234 million acres. And to give that just a perspective, that represents 4 times all area protected by national parks in the US. This is Pará seen from above. This is Pará seen from above. And as you can see, a lot of it is well preserved. You can see the green areas that represent native vegetation. 75% of Pará is still Amazon native vegetation that have been standing since the time of colonization more than 500 years ago. But if we look a little closer, we can see marks deep in the forest, marks left by humanity. True scars, like the following photo, which shows an illegal gold mining site. Despite being a well-preserved landscape, deforestation and natural habitats degradation is on the rise. Commodity prices and illegal activities have fueled the deforestation and also harmed people in the Amazon. But there is a path we can take, and a path that should involve a sustainable low-carbon development and working with people that live here. Vandrea will tell a little more about that path ahead.
Thanks, José. Hi, everyone. I'm Andrea Baitz, and we see there is a path, even with the bad scenario that Zé Otávio just mentioned to you, there are paths. And we will talk about now, and you are one of supporting TNC to solve the bad scenario that he just mentioned. Yeah, here, TNC has worked, as Zé Otávio mentioned, in Pará for 20 years. And we have learned that the path must include social development for keeping the forest standing, and also connecting agroforest products to the value chain. Just coming back, please, to the previous slide. Very thanks. So here you see a farmer surrounded by cocoa seedlings for the agroforestry implementation. This is an example of how we are concretely implementing the activities in Pará and standing behind this gentleman, the forest. Yeah, and we have learned that people are the stewards of the lands and water in the Amazon. The next slide, please. Yeah, thanks. So local population use forest products in many ways, from subsistence, fruit collections, medicinal purposes, and so on. So the path that we see includes supporting indigenous population traditional communities, rural farmers, promoting and linking their productions to the value chain. And the next slide, you see the Para state map, showing the relevance of the lands and territories managed by indigenous population, traditional communities, as well as protected areas. So since they are responsible for protecting more than 55% of the whole state. So traditional communities, for you to understand, are the groups that have their own forms of social organization, that occupy and use territories in natural resources. And here you see the chart with the evidence of what I just mentioned. The traditional knowledge of people who live in the forest is passed on from generation to generation, ensuring that sustainable use of the land where they live occurs. So you see in the chart that more than 99% of the indigenous lands are covered by native vegetation. So indigenous population, quilombola communities, together with conservative units are maintaining native vegetation in Pará state. And yeah, there are over 1.2 million people who live in a deep relationship with forest and rivers. So in this beautiful picture, you can see the Xikrin population in a painting ritual and the inputs and the material used for those rituals are collected from the forest. And we also have many other populations, and there are Amazon populations that they preserve the territories and is essential for reducing the effects of climate change. This is also Xikrin and Waipan. Here is also Quilombola community. And the next slide you will see also this one, thanks. So you see here the richness of the products provided that bring a big potential to bring more income to the local communities when connected to the value chain. So, and at these pictures here, we have a few examples. Here we are in the Velho Peso market. It's the Latin American's largest open air market, a place that receives agroforest products from communities around Guajara Bay, where we are right now. And here you can see at the bottom of the pictures, on the left, products has Brazil nuts, acai fruit, and the acai palm. It's an amazing palm because we use the fruit. They use also palm heart, and the leaves made from this palm are used for the production of those kind of baskets that you see on the pictures. So you see also cocoa fruits, and beside cocoa fruits, you see cupuaçu is another really delicious fruit used for juice productions and for ice cream, and rubber as well. And behind all those fruits, you see the boats that bring daily the production to the market for selling. So here is just a few examples that you can see the type of products that we have here in the region. And apart from working with indigenous population and traditional communities, it's also important to recognize the relevance of the rural sector and the hundreds of thousands of families that live from their land. TNC, and with your support, we are promoting connections and encouraging farmers' production as regenerative agriculture, sustainable cattle ranching, agroforest system products are and should be linked to the value chain. And therefore, TNC has built a connection between products from agroforest system, has cocoa fruits, to the chocolate industries, stimulating plantations on degraded lands, promoting diversification of species, including food security, and also increasing revenue for farmers. And this chart shows that, yeah, this one, thanks. So this chart shows the pasture lands in Pará that have increased 56% from year 2000 to 2020. But if you see carefully from 2008, after the forest law was approved, that it's dealing with environmental crimes, the expansions has slowed down. So this is really important. And here, yeah, here you see the spatial difference in the territories between the years 2000 and 2020 related to the pasture lands, which is almost the exactly footprint of where deforestation occurs during the past 20 years. And if you see carefully, the east part of Pará, you see the deforestation arc, especially where we have a lot of deforestation still happening. And so, yeah, since the last years, so productivity has been increasing in some areas in Pará, and which lead us to three main solutions. First, protecting the 55% of the remaining forests that still are here, especially in some other private properties. Improving management practice and restore forests. So the three main solutions to reduce deforestation and to improve areas. And yeah, it has to be a combination of alternatives for solving the problem. So here you see a combination of rotational grazing and agroforestry system that we call agro-silvopasture system, combining the activity. So you have cattle in three species in a harmony way. And how we do that? So by having technical assistance implemented, also having land management and compliance, enabling financial mechanism, assessing rural credit, supporting farmers for assessing rural credit, and also having a holistic view of the whole value chain. And yeah, here is Dennis Stone, is a family farmer here in Pará, and he is a cocoa farmer that applied the sustainable management on his land, restoring degraded pasture and agroforestry system. So the next slide you see, yeah. So before, this area was completely degraded. So, and he has the combination with cattle, range cattle for income source, but also combined with agroforest. So behind this part, behind this picture, you see an agroforest system with different species that is also used for the family consumption, for selling, and improving the farmers in a good resilience according to the necessity. He can sell different products in different period of the year. And in Pará, there are 360,000 small farms with at least 20 million hectares of land that belongs to smallholders and has a huge potential of increasing productivity and value chain connectivity. And yeah, in rural activities has main source of income yearly generate around 5,000 US per family and represents 28 of the farm income, improving livelihoods. And we can do this, and we cannot do this alone. No one can.
Thanks, Andrea. And as Andrea mentioned, it's a complex issue and a complex scenario that we are dealing with. And that path that Andrea guided us through, we can't take that path alone. So solving the global climate and biodiversity crisis and saving the Amazon requires deep partnerships, balancing an equitable conservation approach and the economic opportunities for local populations is a complex equation. One of which we have to tackle together with indigenous peoples, traditional communities, farmers, and also the value chains that operate in the landscape. As Andrea showed us before, there are 20 million hectares of pasture in Pará. Pasture that helps support cattle and the more than 400,000 families that live in rural areas. But as she mentioned also, half of that area is degraded with very low productivity that is capable of generating, that it's not capable of generating a lot of income to those families. One of the approaches we take is to promote regenerative agriculture, which helps fight climate change, improves biodiversity, and increases local income, generating sound alternatives that can help preserve the forest while also increasing food production. When the improved land management is combined with other approaches like zero deforestation commitment, Warren, I think we can go to the next one, please. Yeah, thank you. When the improved land management is combined with other approaches like zero deforestation commitments, compliance with the forest law, restoration of lands, and crop livestock integration, to name just a few, we can create a virtuous cycle that can help protect the forests, free up land for restoration, and increase place-based economic opportunities. But to be clear, that virtual cycle just works if we protect the forest remnants. As Andrea showed in the chart, 55% of the private areas are still covered by forests. So this is the starting point, guaranteeing that those forests are kept standing. But farmers are just a small part of much larger value chains like the chocolate and beef industries. Next slide, please. Thank you. Most of which have made aggressive zero deforestation and emission reductions commitments over the past few years. So we're also working with them to help those global value chains navigate that transition, helping them develop and adopt traceability and transparency tools like Connecta and the Green Seal, brokering multi-stakeholder agreements such as the Responsible Agriculture Partnership, and promoting incentives for environmental compliance and restrictions for purchasing from deforested areas. And that is what this is about. This is a complex problem that must involve many different approaches. In the case of Pará, combining protection and community-based strategies with joint efforts with value chains and farmers is critical to unlock true long-term solutions for the landscape. And we have to build it together. Acknowledging, next slide, please. We have to build it together with all those different stakeholders, acknowledging and supporting indigenous peoples and traditional communities' protagonism, strengthening governance, developing scalable solutions through public policies, co-creating and channeling resources through innovative financial mechanisms, orchestrating multi-stakeholder dialogues and agreements, amongst many other strategies that we can take, that we can just do it together because of the general support of people like you that have joined us in this virtual field trip. The fate of the Amazon and its role in fighting the fight against climate change is actually a simple equation. Protect the native vegetation, restore the forest through ecological restoration and agroforestry systems, and managing the lands and rivers more sustainably. TNC can't and doesn't want to do it alone. We do it with partners, with people and organizations that want to leave a positive mark. Partners from all sectors and origins, from indigenous people and traditional community organizations and universities to national governments and private sector companies. Remember I said I would get back to the purple martin? There is a saying in Portuguese that a friend of mine recently told me that it also exists in English. And it goes like this: one swallow doesn't make a summer. You all heard that. The interesting thing is that the Portuguese version of that has a choice of words that make the Brazilians interpret that in a different way, which I would translate as a single swallow doesn't bring the sun, but a flock may do. And together we can find a way. Thanks, everyone.
Well, thank you so much. And I'm sorry to draw this to a close. I'm sure there are more questions, but I really want to thank you both, Jose Otavio and Wandrea, for sharing your wisdom and your time with us today. And a huge thank you to everybody on this call. Your generosity and partnership makes a world of difference for the communities and environment of Pará, Brazil, and the Amazon as a whole.